Good evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and we'll be filling you in them over the next half hour. Our special focus will be on the Armed Forces Special Power Act in Jammu and Kashmir. There have been calls for its removal. The government is saying something else, though. What exactly is happening about that? We'll be updating you along with the other stories. But first, the headlines. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley allays fears over Parliament disruption, says he's confident that row over Lalit Modi will not impact the monsoon session of Parliament. Government announces that it will spend 50,000 crore rupees over the next 5 years under the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana scheme to benefit farmers. Home Minister Rajnath Singh reiterates that the Armed Forces Special Powers Act will be revoked in Jammu and Kashmir when the situation turns conducive. And after 54 years of severed ties, US and Cuba decide to reopen embassies in each other's capitals on the 20th of July to further strengthen ties. Well, our top story this evening, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley is confident that the Lalit Modi controversy will not impact the forthcoming monsoon session of Parliament. He ruled out the apprehensions of disruption by the opposition by saying the controversy has no relevance to the subject of governance. He also said that the government will push for two key reform bills on land acquisition and GST during the session.
Under continuous attack from the opposition, especially Congress, over the Lalit Modi controversy, the NDA government is now hoping that this will not cast a shadow over the monsoon session beginning on 21st July. Jaitley also sought to brush aside concerns of disruption of the parliament proceedings on this issue.
Some people may be of relevance to television channel. They are of no relevance to governance as far as the government of India is concerned.
He also hoped that the monsoon session will see key bills like GST and land acquisition being allowed to pass.
The government is hopeful that no political party will take an anti-growth position, an anti-development position as far as the country is concerned, and bills like the GST and the land bill are extremely necessary for that purpose.
Congress, however, questioned Jaitley's confidence in passing the GST and land bills in the forthcoming session. Both bills are being reviewed by the parliamentary panels, which are expected to table their reports once the session starts.
Parliament की committees बन गई हैं और parliamentary committees जो हैं गंभीरता से विचार कर रही हैं. अरुण जेटली जी हमें ये बता दें कि जीएसटी जब यूपी सरकार ला रही थी तब भाजपा उसका विरोध क्यों करती थी?
For the past few weeks, Congress, along with some other opposition parties, has been demanding resignation of External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj and Rajasthan Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje over alleged links with former IPL Commissioner Lalit Modi. Vishal Dahiya, Rajya Sabha TV, Delhi.
And let's go across to our correspondent Vishal Dahiya, who's been tracking the story for us. Vishal, as far as the monsoon session of Parliament is concerned, the opposition was pretty adamant that as far as External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj go and now Rajasthan Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje, there is the opposition has meat under its teeth, but the government not willing to relent. So, I mean, how does it stand? Because it certainly seems like a standoff, as we witnessed in the final fag end of the budget session of Parliament as well.
Well, yes, you're right, Ishan. As of now, there seems a standoff between the government and the opposition, specifically the Congress party, which doesn't seem to be at all willing to budge from its stand of, asking of the resignation of the External Affairs Minister as well as the Rajasthan Chief Minister. Now, the major concern for the government out here is that if this standoff continues, then two of the major legislations which the government wants to bring in, those two legislations might end up being the victim of this, face-off between the government and the opposition, and that is GST and land acquisition bill. Though both of them are being right now being looked into by different house panels, and in fact, sources say that the joint committee of both houses on the land acquisition bill might ask for an extension of a week or 10 days. But then, even then, the government is hoping that it will be able to go ahead and get these two bills cleared in this particular session of the parliament. But given the fact that Congress doesn't seem to be the only party which is trying to corner the BJP-led NDA government on this, there are several other opposition parties, including the left, which are not leaving this opportunity to try and get back at the BJP, which is leading the NDA. So obviously, it's going to be an uphill task for the Prime Minister as well as strategy managers in the government from here onwards till the session begins on 21st July, and then for next 3 weeks to ensure that as little time as possible is lost to disruptions in the House. And not only these two bills, but also some of the key legislations which the government wants to bring in are being brought in and passed in the House. We'll only come to know when the session begins on 21st.
All right, we'll have to wait and watch, as Vishal said, for the session to begin. But the fireworks already on before the session starts. Thanks very much, Vishal, for that update. Well, on to our focus story for today. The centre has reiterated that the Armed Forces Special Powers Act will be revoked in Jammu and Kashmir only when the situation is conducive. Now, reviewing the security situation in the state ahead of the annual Amarnath Yatra, Home Minister Rajnath Singh said the centre will be happy to do away with the controversial act from every corner of the country. His remark comes a day after the BJP's alliance partner PDP slammed Union Minister Jitendra Singh for disfavouring withdrawal of the act in Jammu and Kashmir. Revoking AFSPA is part of the Common Minimum Programme on which the PDP formed the government with the BJP in Jammu and Kashmir. Rajnath Singh also ruled out talks with separatists as of now.
ऊपर वाले से मैं बराबर यही प्रार्थना करता हूं कि ऐसे हालात पैदा हों ताकि अफस्पा की इस देश में कहीं जरूरत ही न रह जाए, ये लगाने की नौबत न आए, ऐसे हालात पैदा हों, इसमें सभी के कोऑपरेशन की आवश्यकता है.
Now, Lieutenant General Raj Kadian, former Vice Chief of the Army Staff, joins us to help us understand, sir. I mean, there are reports like this one by Amnesty International that has come out that says that Armed Forces Special Powers Act is grossly responsible for violation of human rights. You have the union government saying one thing, but it's part of the Common Minimum Programme of the state government in Jammu and Kashmir, as well as a demand amongst various people. So, as far as the AFSPA and its present status in Jammu and Kashmir goes, how necessary is it?
Under normal circumstances, law and order is maintained by the state police. When the situation worsens and it is beyond the control of the police, that the armed forces are called in. Whenever they are called in, anywhere in the world by any country, they have to be given legal protection so that they are able to carry out their assigned task in a manner without the fear of legal prosecution. The Armed Forces Special Powers Act was brought in by the Parliament of India in September 1958. This is not the starting point. Whenever the situation goes beyond the normal norms of control, the area is first declared disturbed, like Jammu and Kashmir was declared disturbed on, I think, 5th July 1990. The Armed Forces Special Power Act is a consequential action. When the army is moved in to control the situation, you have to give them legal protection. There are, if you have 500,000 people involved in a state in trying to control the situation, which is fully supported by the neighbors across the border, they are bound to be mistakes. There's some genuine mistake. There will be some mischiefs. But let me assure the viewers that the person who has the highest stake in ensuring that the troops maintain discipline is the commanding officer.
Right.
If he condones even one act of indiscipline, he cannot run the unit. So whatever acts of indiscipline take place that are not in good faith, like rape is not in good faith, so no rape case is ever condoned. But there is a difference between rape and alleged rape. There are allegations so preposterous. One was a Poshpura case in 1991, when the allegation was that one company of the army surrounded a village, took out all the male members and raped 100 women aged between 13 to 80. It is not even humanly possible. That has been investigated and found false. Most of these allegations are instigated by the militants because they want to demoralize the defense forces.
Right, but Lieutenant General Kadian, I mean, I have the Amnesty International report over here that certainly points out to a lot of accountability issues as far as human rights are concerned. But let's not get into that debate. Let's try to understand Kashmir from a perspective right now, as far as there is a certain amount of political stability. The 1990s type situation is not there, though there have been quite a few instances over the past 6 months as well. But in terms of the local police force over there, is it not strong enough? Can the Armed Forces Special Powers Act be removed in a phased manner? Because there is a lot of political opposition and a large amount of public resentment as well that is building up, anti-army sentiment that could be rather unnecessary, because after all, as you said, the army is only doing its job.
Look, the army is the visible instrument of the state that tries to keep the situation under control. Therefore, they are bound to face allegations. As far as the compulsions of our current political situation is concerned, let's not forget that in 1990, when the act was imposed, Mr. Mufti Mahmood Saeed was actually the Home Minister. Whatever he said at the time of elections, all political parties make commitments. If he thinks that the situation is now peaceful, remove the army and remove the act. But if you still want to keep the army in operations in civil areas, then I think the soldiers will need legal protection. Otherwise, you will have a situation, the army, instead of carrying out their military tasks, will be doing only legal work, because our legal system is so cumbersome and complicated that every case will last years. So let's, as a country, decide whether we want the army to become a force only fighting litigation or a force that carries out operation and keeps the country safe, secure and together.
All right, but General Kadian, coming back to my final question is that is the situation, the Home Minister certainly says only will it be removed when the situation is conducive enough. But is the situation conducive enough for perhaps a phased removal? It could be done in some areas. Do you think that kind of a situation has arrived now? Have we moved on from the 1990s type situation when militancy was at its peak in the valley?
Yes, every act can be reviewed. I am not against review. It has 6 sections. The Armed Forces Special Powers Act has 6 sections. They are so interlinked. It talks about searching a building, searching a vehicle, carrying out arrest, use of force, including causing death after giving due warning, and handing over the people to the civil police. I do not know which part of it they want to review and amend. Only thing that I will not find it practical is that you remove it from a certain area. Because militants do not follow the district boundaries or any territorial distinction. If you move it from one area, they will have a safe sanctuary there. They'll come and hit in the area where it is still in force and go back there. So I don't think it's like trying to separate milk from water. They're too intermixed. So that I don't think prima facie is a practical solution. But yes, overall speaking, a review is always possible and it should be an ongoing process. If they think that the situation is improved, let them review it.
All right, we'll leave it over there. Lieutenant General Raj Kadian, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand AFSPA a little better in the context of Kashmir. Of course, differing opinions over there. Amnesty International saying something else. Lieutenant General Kadian making a different point over there. But thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand this a little better. Well, moving on now, the Union Cabinet today announced a new national irrigation scheme with an outlay of 50,000 crore rupees. Known as the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchay Yojana, the scheme seeks to insulate farmers from the vagaries of monsoon by ensuring efficient use of water in agriculture.
Focusing on job creation and skill development, the Union Cabinet gave its approval for an integrated national policy to promote entrepreneurship on a large scale. Looking to improve farm productivity, the government will spend 50,000 crore rupees in the next 5 years under the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchay Yojana.
हर खेत को पानी मिले और पानी बचाने के लिए, वाटर कंजर्वेशन के लिए जो पानी के मैनेजमेंट की एफिशिएंसी चाहिए, वो व्यवस्था के अंदर लाई जाए.
The scheme enhances recharge of aquifers while introducing sustainable water conservation practices. The cabinet also allocated 200 crore rupees for 3 years for an online national agriculture market by integrating 585 wholesale markets.
अब पूरे राज्य के लिए एक लाइसेंस होगा उसके अतिरिक्त सिंगल पॉइंट लेवी होगी। प्राइस डिस्कवरी के लिए इलेक्ट्रॉनिक ऑक्शंस होंगे।
Another key decision was the National Policy for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship 2015. The policy sets common norms for skill development schemes currently implemented by various ministries. It will also try to align supply with demand while bridging existing skill gaps and promoting industry engagement. The government estimates that 402 million people in India are required to be trained by 2020. Vishal Dahiya, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi has kept a huge budget for its advertisement for FM radio channels. Through this, the government aims to stay connected with the people of Delhi and keep them updated about its work. Last year, the government spent just 24 crore rupees on this count.
Despite facing criticism, the Aam Aadmi Party has refused to budge from its stand on carrying out party propaganda. In its budget, the party earmarked 520 crore rupees to be spent on advertisements on FM radio channels. The party says it is compelled to do so, as the media has failed to highlight the work done by Kejriwal and his team.
हमारी जिम्मेदारी है कि लोगों तक सरकार का काम भी पहुंचे और विज्ञापन के जरिए पहुंचेगा। हम जनसभाएं करेंगे, लोगों के बीच में जाएंगे, उससे पहुंचेगा। हम तो लोगों तक अपना काम पहुंचाएंगे ना, ताकि लोगों को उसका फायदा मिले।
Opposition parties have not reacted favorably to the move. They allege that spending public money on self-promotion amounts to corruption.
कहीं ये वो उन 3-4 कंपनियों को फायदा पहुंचाने के लिए तो नहीं कर रहे जिन्होंने आपकी मदद की थी इलेक्शन के दिनों के अंदर। ये हमारा आरोप है सीधा सीधा, और हम चाहते हैं कि अरविंद केजरीवाल इसके ऊपर जवाब दें।
Is it not a form of corruption? Is it not form of corruption by spending more money on publicity and self-publicity? It has nothing to do with information.
Former Aam Aadmi Party leader and senior advocate Prashant Bhushan called the media exercise a contempt of court decision.
Think that you can do anything by way of a radio advertisement because it doesn't carry a photograph would be a total misunderstanding of the Supreme Court order. If the radio advertisement is used to publicize and promote a party or a government or a political leader, etc., that would be in violation of the Supreme Court's order. This issue will be brought soon to the notice of the Supreme Court.
Recently, the Supreme Court banned use of pictures of any individual except the President and the Prime Minister on advertisements, billboards or hoardings of government schemes.
Before coming to power, Arvind Kejriwal promised to change the political system of the country by working for the people and being accountable to them. But now it seems he is no different. He is doing exactly the same for which he used to target the other political leaders. That is spending public money for his own propaganda and blowing his own trumpet. With video journalist Saroj, Anu Diwan for Rajya Sabha TV.
And Arvind Kejriwal blowing his own trumpet over there. But on that note, we'll take a very quick break. Coming up on the other side, the Eurozone rules out further talks with Greece on the ongoing crisis till it holds a referendum on Sunday. More on that on the other side.
"25 years of the AFSPA in Jammu and Kashmir. Criticism abounding on its implementation and alleged misuse. What went wrong with AFSPA? Watch The Big Picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar went knocking on doors in Patna today as he launched a door-to-door campaign for the state elections scheduled for later this year. In the next few days, about 10 lakh JDU workers will reach out to people through this ambitious campaign named Har Ghar Dastak. As part of the program, the CM knocked doors of 10 households in Patna Sahib Assembly seat, represented by BJP leader Nand Kishore Yadav. He spoke to families about the work done by his government in the past 10 years and also sought views about work that should be done in the future. And let's get you some quick updates from around the country and nationwide. Rescue operations are underway in 3 subdivisions of Darjeeling district where multiple landslides have claimed 38 lives besides washing away highways and damaging homes. MOS Home Affairs Kiran Rijiju took stock of the situation today. A fresh landslip was today reported at Gayabari near Darjeeling today, cutting off the road link between the hill station and Mirik. The Maharashtra government has decided to de-recognize madrasas where subjects like science, maths and social sciences are not taught. Children studying in such madrasas will also be considered as out-of-school students. But the government has claimed that their intention is to help impart formal education. The government has set September 30th as deadline to declare black money stashed abroad. Failing the date will mean offenders will face legal action. A new law to deal with black money was passed this year. Punishment of rigorous imprisonment or up to 10 years and penalty equal to 3 times of the tax have been prescribed for such violations. Former Telecom Minister Dayanidhi Maran was questioned by the CBI for the second consecutive day today. He's been quizzed in connection with the alleged use of 770 high-capacity BSNL data lines at his 3 residences in Chennai and Delhi. He was questioned for nearly 7 hours yesterday on the leasing of telephone lines, which has been termed by the Home Ministry as a threat to national security. Some international news now, and Eurozone finance ministers have rejected possibilities of any bailout talks before the Greek referendum planned on Sunday. IMF chief also ruled out any debt relief to Greece before they sign up for fresh economic reforms. On Wednesday, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras had urged people to vote against the creditor's proposal.
Greece have to wait until Sunday to find a solution to the looming debt crisis. Eurozone leaders ruled out any further discussion on credit for Greece before the referendum. However, French President François Hollande said he wanted a deal before that. The IMF chief Christine Lagarde suggested that Greece should move to reform its economy before creditors give it a break on its debt.
The main decision was that, given the political situation, the rejection of the previous proposals, the referendum, which will take place on Sunday, and the no advice of the Greek government, we see no ground for further talks at this point.
The sequence of that is obviously to be determined between the parties. But given where we are, my suspicion is that it would be much preferable to see a deliberate move towards reforms, for that to be followed through by the other side of the balance.
Greek finance minister accused the creditors of blackmail, but at the same time he pledged a deal would be reached soon after the referendum.
Στόχος μας είναι η συμφωνία. Τη Δευτέρα το πρωί θα πρέπει στο πλαίσιο του Eurogroup να βρούμε μια συμφωνία. Εγώ είμαι διατεθειμένος να ξεχάσω ό,τι έχει γίνει μέχρι τώρα. Είμαστε διατεθειμένοι να αποδεχτούμε και σκληρά μέτρα, τα έχουμε προτείνει άλλωστε, εφόσον το πλαίσιο μέσα στο οποίο θα ενταχθούν θα είναι βιώσιμο όσο αφορά το χρέος, όσο αφορά το αναπτυξιακό κομμάτι.
Pressure is mounting for Greek PM Alexis Tsipras. With banks closed down and capital controls imposed, people are facing much difficulties. Long line of pensioners in front of banks have become the symbol of Greek misery. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Despite India's limited direct exposure to the European Union in terms of trade, RBI Chief Raghuram Rajan feels that the rupee may see some impact due to the Greece crisis. Clarifying on his apprehensions on the global economy, he said that the recovery is on track but is not strong enough. He said monetary policies across the world are getting to the point that may have an effect on currencies. He pointed out that if the Greece crisis impacts euro, it could also have an indirect impact on the rupee too. Despite Greece defaulting on the IMF loan, the rupee has remained stable this week. It has remained flat against the dollar, while against the euro, it has gained over 1% this week. The euro has weakened against major global currencies this year due to the 1.2 trillion stimulus program from the European Central Bank and the Greece crisis. Well, time now to take a look at what has been happening in Cuba, because after 54 years of severed ties, the US and Cuba today agreed to reopen embassies in each other's capitals. Havana and Washington will reopen their respective embassies on 20th July to further strengthen diplomatic ties. US President Barack Obama said the move shows that US and Cuban citizens are no longer imprisoned by the past. US-Cuban relations have been frozen since the early 1960s, when the US broke links and imposed a trade embargo on Cuba. Time now to take a look at all the other international stories in global buzz. Sri Lanka's ruling United National Party has dismissed former Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa's attempt to contest the upcoming parliamentary elections slated for next month. Rajapaksa made a comeback attempt as he said he intends to re-enter politics. He had lost the presidential elections to party rival Maithripala Sirisena in early January. Indonesian military officials cited engine failure as the cause for a plane crash in the residential part of Medan on Tuesday. Over 140 people died when the Hercules C-130 exploded in a fireball shortly after takeoff. Rescue teams have ended the search for crash victims. At least 36 people died after a passenger ferry capsized off the coast in central Philippines. Nearly 173 people were on board when it overturned in rough waters. A massive rescue operation is underway. Coast Guard officials said only 50 people were rescued so far. The cause of the accident is still unknown. A top Al-Qaeda functionary was reportedly killed in a Pakistani military raid near Lahore early this week. Officials said he was one of the 4 militants killed. Home Minister for Punjab province named the Al-Qaeda chief as Abdali and said they had information about a terrorist attack planned by him and 3 other operatives. Time now to get you some sporting action in Sportsbeat. The US has asked Switzerland to extradite 7 FIFA officials arrested on corruption charges in May this year. Formal extradition requests were submitted after the probe. The executives arrested in Zurich are among 14 FIFA officials indicted on charges of corruption. The charges follow a major inquiry by the US Federal Bureau of Investigation. In Wimbledon, top seed Serena Williams swept aside big serving Hungarian Timea Babos in an hour to reach the 3rd round. She will face UK's Heather Watson next. Meanwhile, in men's singles, Stan Wawrinka moved into the 3rd round after securing a 6-3, 6-4, 7-5 win against Victor Estrella Burgos. In today's game, 3rd seed Andy Murray will take on Netherlands' Robin Haas in the second, while 2nd seed Roger Federer will face Sam Querrey in the 2nd round. The Indo-Swiss pair of Martina Hingis and Sania Mirza breezed into the 2nd round of the Wimbledon women's doubles. The top seeds claimed a straight-set victory over Zarina Diaz and Sheng Sai. They will take on Kimiko Datet-Krum and Francesca Schiavone next. In men's doubles, Leander Paes and Canada's Daniel Nestor advanced to the 2nd round, beating Serbian pair of Viktor Trojki and Dusan Lajovic in 3 sets. Defending champions Japan will face 2-time winners United States in the Women's World Cup final at Vancouver. A late own goal by England defender Laura Bassett put Japan into the final on Wednesday with a 2-1 win. Sunday's championship match will be a rematch of the 2011 final in Frankfurt, which Japan won 3-1 on penalties after the game finished 2-2 following extra time. That's all from us. Goodbye.